This is day 30 of the Trump Republican shutdown, and House Republicans remain on vacation. They've canceled votes for 5 consecutive weeks. House Republicans are missing in action. Yet, Speaker Mike Johnson is saying the quiet part out loud. It's extraordinary that earlier today, Mike Johnson admitted that Republicans are willing to starve hungry children in this country and take away SNAP benefits starting on November 1st so they can pressure Democrats into gutting the health care of the American people. That's what Mike Johnson admitted to just a little while ago. That's extraordinary. But it's what we know to be the case. For Republicans, from the very beginning of this presidency, cruelty has been the point. And what has been driving their policy agenda is to make life better for the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-connected. That's what the one big ugly bill was all about. Largest cut to Medicaid in American history, ripping food away from the mouths of children, seniors, veterans, and families. And all of this was done to provide massive tax breaks to their billionaire donors. And now, as we approach November 1st, just 2 days from now, the beginning of open enrollment, tens of millions of Americans, including many in the state of Louisiana, are about to experience dramatically increased premiums, co-pays, and deductibles that will bankrupt them because of Republican refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits. Democrats will continue to stand up for everyday Americans, for working class Americans, and for middle class Americans, for the poor, the sick, and the afflicted, for the least, the lost, and the left behind throughout this country. We're in this fight until we win this fight because we know we're on the right side of this fight for the American people, to protect their health care and to stop these cruel Republicans from ripping SNAP benefits away from the American people. Questions?
Mr. Leader, good afternoon. Thank you. Republicans seem convinced that Democrats are on the verge of caving. We're not going to turn around Wednesday or Thursday morning next week and there's going to be a big turnaround here, is there?
Republicans have been delusional from the very beginning of this government shutdown situation that they visited on the American people. Beginning in early September, Democrats have made clear we will sit down with Republicans to find a bipartisan path forward to pass a spending agreement that makes life better for the American people. But we were never going to vote for a partisan Republican spending bill that guts the health care of the American people in the face of this extraordinary health care crisis that is impacting everyday Americans. Earlier today, several of us in the House Democratic Caucus met with people from West Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina who are on the brink of having their health care ripped away from them. These are hardworking people, hardworking taxpayers, many from rural America and parts of the South, who are here on Capitol Hill. Republicans refused to meet with them, but we sat and spent hours with them earlier today hearing their stories, and they were encouraging us to stay in this fight on their behalf, to cancel the cuts, to lower the costs, and to save health care.
Nothing's going to change. You're not going to back down.
Our position is the same position that we've had in September, the position that we've held throughout the 30-day Trump Republican shutdown in October, and it's going to be the same position that we have in November.
Yesterday you said that the whip team would meet to discuss congressional pay among the caucus. I think you said a week or so ago that the caucus also was going to discuss the topic. Where have you guys come down on this? I think tomorrow's the day that the checks go out, right?
Checks go out. Checks would ordinarily go out for members of Congress on November 1st. And it's an individual decision that everyone is going to have to make in terms of their own circumstances. And, individual members will make those decisions and then communicate with their constituents, as I plan to do when I'm back home in Brooklyn.
So you'll make that decision on November 1st, you'll make it clear what you're doing?
On or before November 1st, I'll make it clear to my constituents back home in Brooklyn what I plan to do.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. So the Trump administration, they announced some deliverables from his meeting with President Xi, including, a resumption of large purchases of USC soybeans from China, crackdown on fentanyl shipments from China. The Trump administration said that they would reduce some tariffs in exchange. You've been critical of the president being in Asia during the final days of the month leading up to the SNAP cliff and the ACA open enrollment. Have you had a chance to look at the agreement, and do you think that the deliverables that the Trump administration said that they were able to get from China justify or was worth the president being out of the country in these final days of, SNAP benefits about to expire, the ACA open enrollment starting without a resolution? How are you squaring those deliverables, that agreement, with the fact that the president was gone for these critical days?
It appears to most reasonable observers that Donald Trump was punked on the world stage by the Chinese Communist Party. The notion that Donald Trump has created all of this trouble for the American people, which he has. The Trump tariffs are raising costs on everyday Americans by thousands of dollars per year. And earlier today, I also met with some small business owners and entrepreneurs who made clear to me in very real terms that the Trump tariffs are going to force many of them to shutter their businesses and abandon their dreams. Donald Trump created this massive inferno that's spreading all across the country and now wants to pretend as if he's a firefighter by putting out the damage that he has created and returning to what? A status quo when you've already increased the expensiveness of life on so many working class Americans and are forcing in real time farmers and small business owners and entrepreneurs to close their businesses. It was all a show as far as we can tell. And the only thing that will change my opinion on that is if everyday Americans start to actually see a change in their quality of life, which no one has experienced in a positive direction since the beginning of the Trump presidency. This is a president who repeatedly promised on the campaign trail that costs would go down. Costs haven't gone down. Costs continue to go up. Childcare costs up. Housing costs up. Electricity bills through the roof. Grocery costs up. Price of coffee out of control. And most importantly, in this moment, healthcare premiums about to dramatically skyrocket because of the Republicans' continued refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits. Republican policies are doing violence to the American people. That's the message that we heard from clergy members who were here on Capitol Hill from all across the country, particularly in the Deep South, earlier today. Policy violence coming from Republicans attacking the health care and the nutritional benefits of the American people.
Thank you, Mr. Leader.
Thanks.
I wonder if I could get your reaction to the apparent redistricting deal that was struck in Ohio. Does this help your efforts to retake the House?
I haven't had a chance to review it.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. As of today, both Delta and United Airlines have called for Congress to pass a clean CR. Is it now incumbent on Democrats to pass this CR and get these air traffic controllers paid who are experiencing delays and airport closures, and that's impacting other Americans as well?
Is it your suggestion that the partisan Republican spending bill that has now been voted down by the Senate 13 different times that guts the health care of the American people is a so-called clean continuing resolution?
It is already a bipartisan CR, as it has some Democrats and independent that's voting for it, and it is an extension of those Biden funding levels, and we're just seeing these impacts really gather and build up.
There's been bipartisan opposition to the partisan Republican spending bill in both the House and in the Senate. And that bipartisan opposition in the Senate has continued 13 different times. Republicans hold press conferences every day, and you know what they do? They lie to the American people. These people are stone cold extremist liars, starting from the very top. And they haven't spoken a word of truth to the American people other than what Mike Johnson admitted today, which is that they want to rip away SNAP benefits from 42 million Americans so they can pressure Democrats to continue Republican policies that would gut the health care of the American people. No thanks. We're not going to do it. And so I appreciate people from throughout corporate America urging the Congress to pass a bipartisan spending agreement. Over the last 30 days, we've said the same thing over and over and over again. We'll sit down with Republicans anytime, any place, anywhere, in order to reopen the government and act a spending agreement that actually meets the needs of the American people. That's been our criteria from the very beginning. A spending agreement that is bipartisan and that makes life better for everyday Americans in terms of their health, public safety, and their economic well-being, which means driving down the high cost of living in the United States of America, which Donald Trump and Republicans have made worse. Life is more expensive, and the overwhelming majority of everyday Americans know that the country is moving in the wrong direction. That's also why we're going to see the American people reject extremist Republicans and their policies on Election Day next Tuesday.
Leader Thune has
sorry.
indicated. Oh, sorry.
First row, yeah.
Sorry about that.
I'll get
Thank
to
you,
you next.
thank you, Mr. Leader. First, have you seen any data on how the suspension of food assistance programs may affect different parts of the country? And if so, is that at all affecting your decision, your political calculus here?
There is no political calculus for us. We are fighting this battle, not for partisan reasons, but because we're trying to lift up the quality of life of the American people. And the American people understand that there's a Republican health care crisis. The American people understand that Republicans have ripped away Medicaid from 14 million people. The American people understand that Republicans enacted the largest cut to nutritional assistance in American history when they cut $186 billion from their one big ugly bill. And now Republicans have the nerve to admit before the American people that ripping away SNAP benefits from 16 million children in this country and more than 1 million veterans is a pressure tactic designed to get the Congress to continue to gut the health care of the American people. It's very interesting to me that amongst the top 5 states that will suffer from the Republican decision not to spend the emergency funds that Congress already allocated, because the Trump administration has the money to ensure that not a single person in America goes hungry. Congress already allocated that money. They're making an affirmative decision to rip SNAP benefits away from the American people as a pressure tactic. That's what Mike Johnson said earlier today, and we reject that. And Republicans are hurting their own people. Louisiana is a top 5 state that will be hurt as it relates to causing people throughout this country to go hungry.
Your former colleague in the New York State's Senate, I believe, Claudia Tenney, said earlier today that the strategy that you and Senate Minority Leader Hakeem, Chuck Schumer are implementing is part of an old Albany playbook or a corrupt Albany playbook. Do you just have any reaction to the claims of that strategy?
Over the last 6 to 8 weeks, the Democratic position has been the same. Cancel the cuts, lower the cost, save health care. Drive down the high cost of living, fix our broken health care system, and clean up corruption. And Republicans, they trot out a new conspiracy theorist each and every day. And now they've dusted one off from the state of New York. We haven't heard from her literally in years. And I mean, it's all falling on deaf ears because while they change their message every week, the only thing consistent is that they lie. As Democrats, we remain consistent in our policy position. Let's reopen the government. Let's enact a bipartisan spending agreement. Let's lower the high cost of living. Let's address decisively the healthcare crisis that Republicans are malignantly visiting on the American people.
Leader Thune yesterday indicated there's been an uptick in bipartisan rank and file negotiations for ending the shutdown. Are you getting briefed or read in on those talks? What are you hearing from your Senate colleagues?
It's not clear to me that John Thune is being accurate when he reports that there's an uptick in bipartisan communication. What communications is he talking about? I think there's informal conversation taking place among some senators on the Republican side who apparently recognize the need to address the affordable health care crisis that Republicans have created in the same way that Marjorie Taylor Greene has been very clear on the House side that there is a health care crisis, that we need to address the affordability issue, that we should extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, and that we actually need some leadership coming from Republicans in the House who've been missing in action and on vacation for 5 consecutive weeks. They're going to get paid. Some of them have been camping and then publicly bragging about it. Others apparently have been in Russia. And yet, hardworking federal employees are being asked to work without pay or being furloughed and don't know how they're going to put food on the table. And the best we can get from John Thune is that he believes there's been an uptick in conversations. These people have been missing in action over the last 30 days. It's so irresponsible that Republicans continue to insist that Democrats participate in their toxic effort to gut the health care of the American people. We're not going to do it.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. President Trump posted on True Social late last night that he wants to resume nuclear testing and is reportedly told the Pentagon to immediately resume U.S. nuclear weapons testing. I was wondering if I can get your reaction to that and what that means for some of our adversaries like Russia and China.
Yeah, it appears that the resumption of nuclear testing would be a massive breach of international treaties that have been in place for decades. And it's just another example of Donald Trump and Republican policies going too far, being divorced from reality, and that Donald Trump and Republicans are not focused on the main thing that the American people want us in the Congress to address, which is why, as Democrats, we're going to continue to relentlessly focus on driving down the high cost of living in this country and fixing the healthcare system that Republicans have broken.
Yesterday and today, Senate Democrats, particularly Senator Warner, have been upset about the GOP only Senate briefing about the strikes in the Caribbean. You, as a member of the Gang of Eight, have you had any briefing or had any talks with intel officials about it?
No intel talk has taken place, even amongst the Gang of Eight, and certainly no information has been presented from the Trump administration or the intel community that provides any basis for the strikes that we've seen, anchored in the law or the Constitution, off the coast of South America.
Do you believe there needs to be a briefing of the Gang of Eight?
Yes.
I wanted to ask, when was the last time you did speak to Delegate Eleanor Holmes Norton? And considering the recent police report that indicated she had dementia and needed a caretaker with power of attorney, do you think she should run for re-election?
Yeah, I'm unaware of that particular report, and I haven't had a conversation with Delegate Holmes Norton in a few weeks. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.